The sun-drenched shores of Tenerife, a paradise in the Canary Islands, beckoned to tourists seeking warmth and relaxation. But on March 27, 1977, this idyllic getaway became the scene of an unthinkable tragedy. As the fog rolled in, two Boeing 747s sat on the runway, their crews unaware of the horror about to unfold. In mere moments, the deafening screech of metal on metal would shatter the calm, plunging 583 souls into darkness. How could such a catastrophe occur on the ground, in a place meant for takeoffs and landings? This is the story of the Tenerife Airport disaster, the deadliest crash in aviation history. For decades, the Canary Islands have been a refuge for sunseekers from around the globe. Nestled in the Atlantic Ocean, this Spanish archipelago offers year-round warmth and stunning beaches. But on that fateful day in 1977, Tenerife's Los Rodeos airport became known for something far more sinister than its holiday allure. Two jumbo jets, giants of the sky, found themselves diverted to this small airport due to a bomb threat at their intended destination. A KLM Royal Dutch Airlines Boeing 747 and a Pan American World Airways 747 sat side by side, their passengers eager to continue their journeys. Little did they know that a perfect storm of miscommunication, weather, and human error was brewing, a combination that would lead to unimaginable loss. As the afternoon wore on, a thick blanket of fog descended upon the airport. Visibility dropped dramatically, turning the familiar runway into a treacherous maze. The air traffic controllers, working without ground radar, relied solely on radio communication and their own judgment to guide the massive aircraft. At 5:06 p.m. local time, the KLM flight began its takeoff roll. Captain Jacob van Zanten, one of the airline's most experienced pilots, pushed the throttles forward, confident in his decision to depart. But there was a problem, a fatal misunderstanding that would cost hundreds of lives. Unbeknownst to the KLM crew, the Pan Am flight was still on the runway, slowly taxiing to its assigned position. The fog had obscured their view, and a series of miscommunications left both crews believing they had clearance to proceed. As the KLM 747 accelerated down the runway, the Pan Am pilots suddenly saw its lights emerging from the mist. In those final, terrifying seconds, both flight crews desperately tried to avoid the inevitable. The Pan Am pilots gunned their engines, attempting to veer off the runway. The KLM captain pulled back on the yoke, trying to lift his fully loaded jet into the air. But it was too late. With a sickening crunch of metal and a deafening explosion, the two Boeing 747s collided. The KLM plane slammed into the Pan Am jet, tearing through its midsection and igniting a massive fireball. The impact was so violent that it sheared off the top of the Pan Am aircraft, sending debris scattering across the runway. In an instant, 583 lives were extinguished. The scale of the disaster was unprecedented in aviation history. Survivors from the Pan Am flight, those lucky few seated in the forward section, stumbled from the wreckage in shock. Rescue workers, battling flames and thick smoke, rushed to save anyone they could. But for most on board both aircraft, there was no chance of escape. As news of the catastrophe spread, the world reacted with horror and disbelief. How could two modern airliners collide on the ground, at an airport with functioning air traffic control? The investigation that followed would uncover a complex web of factors that led to this tragic event. Investigators from multiple countries descended on Tenerife, combing through the wreckage and analyzing every piece of evidence. They listened to cockpit voice recordings, interviewed survivors and air traffic controllers, and meticulously reconstructed the sequence of events. What emerged was a sobering picture of how small misunderstandings and assumptions could snowball into disaster. The fog played a crucial role, robbing pilots and controllers of vital visual cues, but human factors were equally important. The pressure to depart quickly after long delays, the hierarchical cockpit culture that discouraged junior crew members from questioning the captain's decisions, and ambiguous radio communications all contributed to the tragedy. Perhaps most critically, the investigation revealed how a single phrase, "We are now at takeoff," uttered by the KLM captain, was misinterpreted by air traffic control. The controller assumed this meant the plane was in position, waiting for clearance. In reality, it had already begun its takeoff roll. This revelation sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. It highlighted the critical importance of standardized phraseology and the need for clearer, more precise communication between pilots and controllers. The disaster also underscored the dangers of get-the-rightus, the pressure pilots can feel to complete a flight despite adverse conditions. In the wake of the Tenerife disaster, sweeping changes were implemented across the aviation world. Crew resource management (CRM) training became mandatory, encouraging open communication in the cockpit and empowering junior crew members to speak up if they had safety concerns. Standard phraseology was refined and emphasized in pilot training. Ground radar systems were improved, and procedures for low-visibility operations were overhauled. Today, every time a plane takes off or lands safely, it carries with it the legacy of those lost in Tenerife. The lessons learned from this tragedy have made air travel significantly safer for millions of passengers around the world. But for the families of the 583 victims, the pain of that day lingers on. As we reflect on the Tenerife Airport disaster, we are reminded of the fragility of human life and the awesome responsibility borne by those who operate and regulate our skies. It stands as a solemn warning of how quickly things can go wrong, even in the most controlled environments. Yet it also serves as a testament to our ability to learn from tragedy and implement changes that save countless lives. The sun still shines on Tenerife's beaches, and planes still land at what is now Tenerife North Airport. But beneath the holiday atmosphere lies a permanent memorial, a reminder of that dark day in 1977 when two planes collided in the fog, forever changing the face of aviation safety. From the ashes of disaster rose a commitment to ensure such a tragedy would never happen again. And so, with each safe landing and takeoff, we honor the memory of those lost and reaffirm our dedication to making the skies ever safer for all who fly.